I lost everything during the recession once, and my family lost everything as a child. So I already went through foreclosure and bankruptcy once. I have no high school education, no college education. I was really worried that if things presented themselves to have that kind of adversity again, what would happen? I basically just bet everything on this business working.
Okay, so if you think that wholesaling is all about Instagram checks and sipping margaritas on the beach, then this episode is going to ruin it for you.
Yeah, there's hoarder houses, dumpster diving, even 10:30 p.m. therapy sessions at night.
Yeah, and they literally had to make their life smaller before it got bigger. They sold their house, they moved into an apartment, they had to bet everything on themselves.
Yeah, that's the part that most people skip.
Welcome to the Our Family Invest podcast, where we explore what happens when family, purpose, and entrepreneurship align. I'm Mike, a former Maui firefighter who reached financial freedom in just 5 years through real estate investing.
And I'm Caroline, a Maui-based realtor here to educate, empower, and elevate my clients to make smart real estate moves, whether right here at home or through my nationwide network.
Together, we're chasing our full potential as individuals, as a couple, and as a family. We're here to build a life that matters. And each week we share the stories of couples who inspire us to love harder, dream bigger, and grow bolder. So join us and let's learn, share, and grow together. All right, today we're sitting down with Jeremy and Shelly Beland, a couple who didn't start their entrepreneurial journey with a master plan. They started with $11,000, full-time jobs, 5 kids, and a decision that made their life smaller before it got bigger. They sold their home, they moved into a tiny apartment, they kept going to work, and they quietly built something most people only talk about. Now, with over 500 off-market real estate deals under their belts, they've built real freedom. Not the Instagram kind or the get-rich-quick kind, but the kind that proves that with a little grit and perseverance, anything is possible. Guys, before we jump in, I want to know who each of you are at your core, but I want you to answer for each other. So Jeremy, if you were to describe who is Shelly that only you know, and then Shelly, maybe you can brag a little bit about Jeremy, what would you say?
Well, I would describe my wife, Shelly, as a mother first and foremost. She's just a tremendous mother and parent. When I think of myself as a parent, and we're a blended family, so we're both in our second marriage, and when I look at her as a parent, she's really been a role model for me, as an adult parent my entire life. So when I think of her first and foremost, is just a wonderful, wonderful, loving, empathetic, caring mom person that I really look up to that way. Obviously a wonderful wife and best friend. She's also an incredible athlete. She may not look like a credible athlete, but she is, where she does all kinds of pull-ups. She runs 100-mile races and does a really good job running 100-mile ultras. And she's done a whole bunch of ultra training under her belt. She's just big heart, endless energy, and a just somebody who just brings a lot of love and compassion into our family, our community, and our business.
I love that.
Well, that was very nice. Thank you so much. Well, I guess what I would say, the biggest thing about Jeremy that I always noticed is that he's just like the perfect example of it does not matter where you came from. It just matters where you're going. Ever since I met him, even without knowing his full background, I just noticed that he was the type of person, because when we first got together, we were friends first. We were running together. And he was just the kind of person that was just like, every day I want to be 1% better than I was yesterday. And he has carried that into our family with blending 5 kids, which was really hard for a couple of years, and building the business at the same time and moving 3 times while we were doing it. The whole time he was like, nothing matters except who I am today, and it better be better than yesterday. And we're just going to keep going. And we're going to he always says, we're going to fail forward. We might make mistakes, but we're just going to keep going. So that's about it. And he's an awesome father as well.
And I want to piggyback off that. We make each other better. And she's wired the same way. We're both trying to be the best we can be, and we help each other achieve that.
I love it. And that's why we're having this conversation. So it sounds like you met while you were running. What was your first date like? And who made the first move?
Well, I wish it was kind of like that journey. It was really because we became friends for a long time, and it wasn't until this big race that she had out in Indiana where things kind of turned differently. I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't say I had feelings for her, but they weren't publicly known. Because we were just friends. We were both, I went through a divorce a couple of years earlier. She was, out of one not too long before that. So it was just one of those things where she went through this 100-mile race. A lot of things happened in that 24-hour race. Probably too much stuff to explain in this podcast of really overcoming some major obstacles with the weather and the race itself. It was really that. And she was incredible. 80 miles in, like this bad weather came through and we had to hide from a storm and everything else. And she ended up gutting this out for another 20 miles to finish this race. And I don't know, it's just something magical happened that week and it really brought us closer together. And that's when we decided to take our friendship to the next level. And we've never looked back since.
We basically started dating on his first ultra, which was he did the last 40 miles of my race with me to pace me through the night. And if it kind of brings it back to like what I was saying about him in the beginning, we're slopping through all this mud and there were like thunder and lightning and stuff. And I knew because I was with him that it wasn't a matter of like if I was going to finish, because I knew he would say, it's not if, it's just how are we going to get this done? So I kind of just obviously fell in love with him before that, but it was very apparent that night. So that was our first date.
Yeah, a little unconventional, but it works for us.
So you ran 40 miles on your first date. That's pretty impressive. That's commitment right there.
Yeah, I mean, that's how committed I was. I had swollen ankles for a week.
No, I don't think you were expecting
I don't know if
that.
I've run 40 miles in my life.
Combined.
All right. I want to go back to when you're just getting started in real estate. You guys had jobs, you had 5 kids, you had responsibilities. What was the tension like in your house that led you to make that decision that it was time for a change?
Well, we weren't technically together at that point. We're still friends. This was prior to that race and everything else. She was working full time in another career. I was working full time in another career. And I was at a point in my life where I decided that I wanted to take this step forward. And, it was a really tough decision because, it's kind of a long origin story to get you there. But, I was basically hitting 40 years old. This was September of 2016. And, as we get older, we realize that we can become more expendable and vulnerable, in the corporate world. And I lost everything during the recession once, and my family lost everything as a child. So I already went through foreclosure and bankruptcy once as a child, was on the brink of it again during the Great Recession. And because I have no high school education, no college education, I was really worried that if things presented themselves to have that kind of adversity again, what would happen? And I wanted to take things into my own control. And I was learning about a thing called wholesaling then. And if people don't know what wholesaling is, that's when you get a property under contract with a distressed seller and you assign those rights to a different buyer, and you get paid via an assignment fee. So I wanted to wholesale. I wanted to flip. I wanted to buy rentals, but I had no money, didn't know we could use other people's money. I just thought that wholesaling would be the easiest entry level into real estate. So I came across a coaching program and a podcast called Wholesaling Inc. and Tom Kroll out of Florida. Didn't have $5,000 to join, didn't have any money to start it. So I decided, this was when I was still a divorced dad of 2 kids on my own, to sell the townhouse that I owned for about 2 years. I took the equity in that, moved my kids, myself personally, into a smaller 2-bedroom apartment, which was similar to where she was staying at that time. And I basically just bet everything on this business working. I took $11,000 of that $17,000 in equity, $5,000 went into a coaching program, $6,000 went into our marketing spend, LLC formation. And next thing you know, January 2017, we started marketing. Right behind us is my very first check of $5,000, my very first assignment thing. And she was like my friend. So she saw this journey happening. And as that year went on, I ended up doing 10 deals, and she started getting more involved towards the end, but she was still working full time. At the end of that first year, I convinced her, I said, can you please quit your job and come on full time? She's like, what am I going to do? I'm like, I don't know, bookkeeper.
And that was very scary for me too, because I was at that point a single mom with 3 kids and I had my rent to pay, and my lifestyle had changed too. So I was like, actually very nervous. Like, are you sure this is a good idea for me to quit my decent job right now and jump into this with you? Is there going to be enough work? And I didn't know a lot about wholesaling. I was definitely learning it through him. So I was like, how are we going to be sure that this is going to be consistent income? And it, it was a lot of faith to just what is it called? Burn the bridges and, and quit my job and go on with him. But it worked out. So.
Yeah. And to put this into timeline, like I started the business late, 2016, started market January 2017. The race happened May of 2017, the infamous race. And then, she quit her job at the end of 2018. We ended up moving into our house together in 2018. And then, we've been a blended family ever since.
Wow. Okay, so that's a lot.
Yeah, Shelly, what made you say yes and go out on a limb and, have faith that it was going to work out? Because that is a scary thing to give your 2 weeks notice and say, okay, we're doing this. I have no idea what we're doing, but we're doing it.
I know. I think it's just that I saw in him that he was not going to give up. And like, even if this didn't work out, this path, there was going to be something else. We were going to learn how to flip. We were going to do something. I knew he had like the skill set to make something happen and the drive and like this. I could get into the morning routine of like the morning miracle that he was doing, Miracle Morning, and like reading every single day, reading everything he could get his hands on about the wholesaling and real estate. So I just kind of like knew that somehow we were going to make this happen together, and I had a lot of faith in him as well. So I just did it.
It looks like a good choice.
Yeah, it worked out well.
Yeah.
And, and it was great because, towards the end of 2017, she started being more actively involved within the business anyway. And she started going on appointments with me and started really becoming more involved. And that was it really kind of was a pivotal moment in the business as well. Like, I probably would have had some success, but bringing us together as the brand really took us to a different level, because we started going, rather than just some guy going on this appointment as a low ball, slimy investor, Shelly coming in as a sweet girl next door really started to lower people's defenses down and started allowing them to see me for who I was and who we were. We were really there to provide value and come from a place of empathy and trying to help people and things of that nature. But people's first initial reaction of a guy doing that is different than what they would have of a female. So
or
a couple. And, we've really now have been in business for 10 years up here in the New Hampshire area. And, she's really the face of the business now, on a public level.
Believe it or not.
And,
I'm shy. Yes.
Yeah. And it's really worked out well. She's really become the brand. We're the brand, but, it's been great. And, we talk about building a life of freedom. It could be misleading where we're not like, listen, living in some Hawaii beach where everything's happened without us. We're still actively involved with our business, but we've built a business around our lifestyle. And once we both left our corporate jobs, we've had the ability to be very present for our 5 children, and we've seen them until they left the nest. We were actively involved in everything. We didn't have to let a job get in way of that, whether we want to take vacations, to be at some school event, to be home with them for 6 days. We were able to have that kind of freedom, and we still have that kind of freedom. And that's been the best blessing of this business.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Just to shed light on that, it probably did give you an advantage, both of you going, because it probably helped you get the foot in the door to actually have a conversation. So that's great. From a business standpoint, what's one repeatable action that you feel like moved the needle early on?
That's a good question.
I think ongoing training that we kept looking for.
Yeah.
Education.
Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah. We run a mentorship program now. I never thought there'd be a time and a day where I'd actually be a mentor, but I've always believed in mentorship. I remember going through our first mentorship program, thinking I knew what I knew enough, but going through the program being like, oh my God, if I didn't take this, it would have taken me so much longer to get everything done. Yeah. So I've been a big believer in mentorship. So, every step along the way, we identified I don't know, like just a situation where we are like a step where we couldn't get past, right? We come to our capacity of knowledge. We don't know how to get any better, move any forward, to get any bigger. Let's go find somebody that can get us there. So we've kept finding these mentors along the way. We've had many over the course of 10 years. And that's probably been a very pivotal key to our success. That is one actionable step that we've done. We've just always invested in mentorship.
Yeah, that's why I answered that. Because, like, from the very beginning, we learned how to wholesale a property. And then we did that, 3 or 4 times. But he said, okay, well, we know how to do that. But how do we build this into a business? Back to my question when I left my job. How do we make this sustainable and predictable, that we're definitely going to get 3 to 5 contracts a month and plan it? And so when we went to our first program, that mastermind, we learned about KPIs. We didn't really even know that we should be tracking these things. So that was like the very start of all that. And then I think every time we've kind of gotten like a little bit stagnant or come to some kind of obstacle, we seek out more training in a different form. So yeah.
You say one thing, but I'll tell you, it's been 3 things really. It's always be marketing, right? So we always had to be marketing, generate leads, always be learning, which was us, reading books, getting mentorship, and 3, just always taking action, which is something we do, always massive and perfect action. We're not about analysis paralysis. To me, to my detriment, I'm going so fast sometimes, where she slows me down, thankfully. So those 3 things really have been the key things to really building momentum over the years.
Yeah.
I love that you go all in, right? Like I love all right, I'm going to sell this townhouse. I'm going to take the profits. I'm going to invest in coaching. I'm going to invest in myself. I'm going to burn the bridges, and I'm not going to fail here. And that you're taking the actions you mentioned, Miracle Morning, doing the things to get better every single day. That's super important. And I think, as far as wholesaling goes, there's a lot of things that you're right. It's probably one of the easier ways to get started with real estate, but there's also a lot of things that will turn people off about that too, right? Like marketing, direct mail. I don't know how you did your marketing, but I assume probably direct mail, sending thousands of postcards or something like that, right? Like that's a little intimidating for people. What do you think is the some principle that you see around off-market deals that people always seem to overcomplicate?
Oh my goodness, there's so many things. I think a lot of people stay away from wholesaling because they don't want to have to deal what it takes to work with distressed sellers, right? There's one thing to create marketing, to generate leads and get deals under contract. There's a whole other behind the scenes scenario of getting these contracts to close. And there's a lot of things that go on as far as what you need to do to help these sellers get there. They're habitual procrastinators. They can't sometimes get in their own way. There's a lot of other obstacles as far as like resources and things that you need to provide for them. And a lot of people don't want that. They just want the house, right? I'd rather pay more for speed and convenience and not have to deal with the house. Whereas we're really working the challenges of getting these properties under contract and the challenges go along with that. And then the challenges of getting them under close. So, I think that's a lot of what turns people away from wholesaling. I guess I don't know how to answer your question as far as, can you think of a way to answer his question?
No, I just really was agreeing with what you said a lot, because I think a lot of people will, work on their website, work on their CRM. They have this big vision for their business, and they do the marketing and the leads start coming in, they answer the phone calls, everything's great, I have all these leads. But when it comes to like the actual nurturing of the leads, and you realize that you're like someone's therapist texting them at 10:30 at night every night. I mean, we for years were just on with people nonstop and going to their houses, going above and beyond to help them out. And I think they get a little bit discouraged because they realize like, whoa, this is way more overwhelming than I expected. And sitting in living rooms maybe is not as appealing as they thought at first.
Sure.
So, but obviously there are systems that you can put in place and create a business that makes all of those things a lot easier. But if you don't know that in the beginning, I can see how it would be really overwhelming and people kind of shut down sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, mean, I think wholesaling in general is a simple business, but it's a lot harder than people realize. And once they get into it, they're like, oh my God, this isn't what social media made it seem like. It's actually boring and hard.
That's what I was going to say. You know, it looks so flashy sometimes online, like, or you just see all these like checks and it was no big deal. I just closed $100,000 deal.
Yeah.
It's like, there's a lot more to it.
For sure.
And you also cannot smell through a screen.
Oh, this is so true. Yes. I mean, the amount of, like, we've left shoes outside of places before and the hand sanitizer. All over
We've been through it all.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I will say one thing, though, as far as overcomplicating, I guess the one thing I would think of to answer that question is, you know, people have analysis paralysis, and that kills more dreams than anything in this business. I think everybody's waiting for the perfect situation, perfect scenario, perfect marketing, perfect market, whatever the case is. And it just doesn't exist, right? It's never going to be perfect, and you have to do it anyway. If you're going to be one of these people who are going to the local real estate investing association month after month, learning everything, but never taking action, then you're just waiting for that perfect moment to come, but it never comes. So I think that is the one thing that people do to overcomplicate things outside of the stuff that we just talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really important as the business grows too, like the whole analysis paralysis thing, because I don't know if I would do that, but I'm like somewhere in the middle where Jeremy is just, like we said, you know, fail forward. We're going to figure this out. If we make an expensive mistake, that'll be the cost of education. Like, we're doing this. So when we did our first flip, you know, we didn't even know about private money, but we learned about, private lending. We learned about private lending, and he's like, all right, we're going to do our first flip. But we didn't even know what contractors to call. We called
Floors Direct or something.
Empire to get the flooring, because we just didn't know how to get like a basic flooring contractor or painters. Like, we actually had no idea how to flip a house, and
we did it anyway.
We just figured it out along the way. Same thing happened when we went to buy our first multifamily. I was like, oh, we bird that property, and I was like, are you sure we can do this? Like, are you sure we're going to be able to refinance? What is that going to look like? What if we can't get out of it? What if all these things goes wrong? And he just always says, yeah, they might actually go wrong. But if we worry that something's going to go wrong, then we're never going to just do it. And, you know, a lot of the time it's worked out for us. A couple of the times we've had those expensive mistakes, and we do chalk it up as just like, okay, well, that was an expensive class. Moving on.
I think that's a really good point. And I think, you know, to backtrack a little bit, one of the things that you said kind of struck me was that you are oftentimes therapists, right, for a lot of these sellers. And it's hard too, because a lot of the properties that go up for wholesale are not the prime homes that, you know, you'll see on Zillow or whatnot. They can be hoarder homes. They can be, you know, distressed in a lot of different ways. So you are talking these people into like, hey, it's okay, before you maybe lose your house, or maybe can give you some equity to you know, encourage your future growth. What are some of the things that you've had experience working with clients about, like, you know, what are some situations where you've had to go in and just kind of be that therapist? Talk through that a minute.
Yeah, some real life examples for our audience.
Yeah, can you think of any off the top of your head? There's so many.
Well, just like, not all of them, but many of them. It's just, so first getting them to even make the decision to sign the contract, they have to make sure that it's okay with this family member or this family member. Are they sure that they want to move? So you're working through all that. Then once they're under contract, it's like getting it to the closing table. Well, you're going to have to start to pack. And we had, maybe let's talk about the Nashua one years ago, Burgess Street.
Oh, yeah.
So this woman, she definitely wanted to sell us the house, but it was like a fight every day with like a teenage daughter to get her to do the things that she needed to do. We had to go over there and help her, and she would complain and stomp around. I don't want to do this. And it's like, okay, well, we're trying to help you, and we're all working together to get to the finish line. So she had us like going through like these like mouse poop records in the attic to help her because she said she
Couldn't move on
she's
without
too
him.
overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So we were physically doing it ourselves to help her out with that, and then we are driving her to her dad's
We
house.
had to drive.
And
Yeah, we're going there.
all
She,
sorts of crazy
you know,
stuff.
it's a longer story than that, but she basically had certain stuff in the house that she couldn't move on without, but she was doing nothing to pull it all together. We had the house under contract with an buyer with the closing date, and she would basically stop around like a teenager. I don't want it. It was overwhelming. And she started getting into her oxygen mask like she was having.
And to add another layer to it, so there was, if you could explain the thing about the doorknobs, because that's actually that house.
Oh, yeah.
With her sister.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a kind of a probate situation. This was early on before we realized that there could be other decision makers. And we found out by the title company that basically this specific situation, this girl who inherited the house was younger than the children. So she married a dad, was much younger. The dad passed away. The children did not get along with this younger person. And, after meeting her, I can understand why. The house was completely distressed. She was living with her elderly dad at this point, wanted nothing to do with the house, but we needed the signatures of these these children to get this thing sold. And they weren't getting any equity stake in the house, but they wanted the ability to get into the house to get some memorabilia from their mom who passed away many years ago. And this person was like, no, they can't get in this house. They're not going to do it. So I snuck them into the house to do it behind this person's back, which I don't think I would do now, but I felt like that was the right thing to do because I felt for these people. So because she wasn't living there, we got them into the house to do that. But then, one of the children, the daughter, again, who's older than the person selling the house, the second wife, they had like these old crystal doorknobs. And she's like, I want these crystal doorknobs. If you can get me these crystal doorknobs to this house, I'll sign and we can move forward. But we knew we couldn't remove these doorknobs without the seller knowing, and the seller wasn't going to have it. So like at this point, this was early on in our career, and this was like a $25,000 assignment, which was a big deal for us at the time.
Yeah.
Like if this didn't go through, our business may not survive kind of scenario. So, I had to go back to the daughter who wanted the doorknobs. And I was just like, listen, I know you want these doorknobs, but rather than trying to push it on the seller, because I knew she was not going to budge, I said, why don't we keep these doorknobs? And that way, when the house is renovated and this new family comes in, they can have all the same sentimental value that you did as a child growing up in this house. And you could pass that along for the decades to come. She agreed, and the doorknob stayed, the house closed. That was just one of the many obstacles, right? You have family members, you have this crazy seller lady who's stomping her feet and wants a Cyndi Lauper album up in the attic.
For like 2 months of everybody else.
So that's one example. We've had examples where we've had to move people across country that maybe had no resources or no family members locally that could help them, no money to get to that level, right? So we had to go and pack their house, send stuff up across country in a pod.
Set up the flights,
drive them
to the airport.
Right. Do whatever we needed to do to take care of them. A lot of them are elderly. You'd be surprised how many elderly people live by themselves and no family or friends to help them. And you have to give them the resources financially, but also physically to get to that next step. We've done a lot of that over the years as well. And then, when it comes to hoarders, we've had a lot of hoarders that, agreed to move out of the house only to find them back at the house, diving through the dumpster to get more stuff or things of that nature because of the illness that comes along with hoarding. So there's been a lot of those challenges, but, at the end of the day, we hope to put them into a better situation, right? We're all one or two, life events or life decisions from being in a really bad spot. Myself, that was me in 2009 during the Great Recession when I lost pretty much almost everything there. And it was a real estate investor that gave me a reset button. So we're allowed to provide a lot of that value in our community. And, that's the big thing. Sometimes they can be a detriment and get in their own way, and we have to help them. But a lot of times once we get to the closing table, they're like, oh my God, thank you for everything that you've done.
Hey family, real quick. If you'd rather watch your content, head over to Our Family Invests on YouTube. You'll find this episode and all our episodes over there. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your takeaways in the comments. Now, back to the show.
Yeah. I love that you talk about the non-glamorous side of wholesaling, right? Because that's a side that they don't sell you in the courses and that you have to live first before you can explain it, right? And hopefully you are mentoring your students to say, hey, this can happen. This is how we deal with it. Or, maybe the juice isn't worth the squeeze on this too, right? And sometimes you just have to walk away. One of the things, getting the contracts is one thing. Finding the buyers is a whole nother one. So how are you able to build your buyers list now that you've got all of these sellers that are coming at you?
Well, we believe in the more cash buyers, the more money you make in this business. We believe in a big, bad cash buyers list. One of the early lessons we learned on from that check sitting behind us was the lack of having cash buyers. And, when I was going through that mentorship program, they wanted us to have a minimum of 180 cash buyers. I had like 30. I'm like, that's enough, right? That's enough. Went and got the house under contract, had a showing to show the property. Nobody showed up. And then, had to go for a reduction and had another showing, gathered a few more buyers. 1 or 2 people showed up. And then I desperately said, all right, I got another reduction, had a third showing. I said, I need to start putting an emphasis on cash buyers, because when we get on early on in this business, we're so focused on the leads. We don't focus on the cash buyers. And then I got our first deal done on, a whopping $5,000. But that lesson taught me that I need to have a lot of cash buyers. So we've been really adamant about building a strong cash buyers list. And this is something we really preach a lot in our mentorship program now. And a lot of newbie wholesalers, when they come in, they follow the same course that I did. Oh, I have enough. But when it comes to the cash buyers list, it's really the 80-20 rule applies. 20% of those cash buyers are going to buy 80% of your deals. The other 80% are fake people, tire kickers, waiting for the perfect unicorn to come along, whatever the case may be. So you really need to build up that 20% as much as you can. So we just really worked hard, and we worked just as hard in those early years building our cash buyers list as we did on the front end and building lists, sellers. And, we're talking thousands, right? And then early on in 2018, another mentor taught us about marketing our deals on the MLS. And that was the game changer in our business. And that's something I really preach a lot to people in our coaching program. Now, not every deal can go on the MLS because sellers may not want it on the MLS. But if they're going to allow us to, we're trying to put it on the MLS because that gets the most views on the property. And there's a legal way, ethical way of doing that. And every state's a little bit different. I don't want to get into the intricacies of that. Probably not the time or place. But if anybody wants to reach out, I can explain how that all works. But there's going to be a time when the MLS isn't an option. So you want to have a big cash buyers list. We want to create a bidding war for our contracts with our cash buyers. And that's what we do. We have a one-time showing, like an open house. We drive as many people in there as we can. We try to get them to outbid each other for the highest and best, and once we started doing that, our numbers went up very high. So that's really the approach that we take. But cash buyers, they come and go. And then sometimes, as you guys may know, you get these deals that are, motivated and there's equity, but it's not really a great property for whatever reason. And if you have a big cash buyers list, you may find 1 or 2 people willing to take that property rather than turning it into nothing.
Yeah.
Just a quick question. When you are wholesaling deals and let's say you have it under contract, but you can't find someone to assign it to, do you then purchase it yourselves personally?
So, we started out as wholesalers, but we're more professional house buyers now. So, the way our business model has been for many years is we're getting everything under contract, and then we just decide what is the best scenario for us personally or professionally. Does it make sense to wholesale this? Maybe it, up here in New England, could be an old farmhouse from the 1800s with a stone foundation that needs a ton of work. May not be a headache we want to take on. If it's like a 1980s, 1990s build that's a cosmetic situation, that might be a flip that we'll be willing to take on. To answer your question, if we put it out for our cash buyers list and nobody wants it, that's usually a sign that we shouldn't take it down, and we don't. But we take down a lot of properties. We, at any given time can own 15, 20 properties with private lending, various stages of wholesales, flips, rental properties, things of that nature. But we really just decide, is it cash now, cash later? What gives us a bigger bang for our buck? Do we even want to take on another flip right now? Is this a
How
rental
many
property?
projects we have going on? If we
Yeah.
have a lot of stuff going on and it's maybe a little too far out because we go a couple hours away, so maybe it's too far out. So those, if we can wholesale it for a good amount and just like move on to the next one, then we do.
Yeah.
But it just
Yeah.
depends. Every situation is different. We kind of like put it through a process, right, as they come in on what we're going to do with that
Yeah.
property.
That's good. So I like that you started with wholesaling, you figured out how to make that work. You're starting to do that really well. And then at some point, I assume the next step is probably flipping. And you mentioned multifamily in there as well. So walk us through, what does your portfolio look like right now and what are you focused on?
Well, I guess the portfolio has changed a lot over the years. That's been a learning lesson in itself. Burring is, a good way to bring equity, but doesn't necessarily mean cash flow. But as we're getting older, we're trying to buy a little more turnkey rentals in some other parts of the country that cash flow better, that have some stronger upside. We burr a lot of properties here. They don't necessarily cash flow great, but they have some cash flow, pay for themselves, but bring in some great equity, but also really help us from a cost segregation standpoint for tax advantages because of the capital gains that we accrue in our business. So we do a lot of that, but we sell properties, so we'll get them. Some we want to hold on to 5 to 10 years. Some of them we hold on for a year, 2 years, 3 years. May not be a great property. We'll, trim the dead branches to build a stronger tree. So, a lot of that will change. The way it stands now, honestly, I don't even know how many doors we have. It's nothing substantial. We have about 5 or 6 single families down in Jackson, Mississippi, a couple single families in upstate New York. We have a couple 5 families here, a couple 3 families in New Hampshire. We have a short-term rental in Florida. Think that's about it. I'd have to go look. They're more of a savings account for us than anything else at this point, right? Tax advantages and savings account. We're going to reap the rewards for those 5 to 10 years down the road. So that's, they're less of a concern now. We're just trying to acquire them for later on.
And then our flips are kind of like cycling. So we'll go through periods where we'll have like, I don't know, 5, 6 flips at a time to, was it last fall when the market was scary? We stopped flipping for a while and we were just wholetailing and wholesaling. But then now we just started flipping a lot again this year. So there's a board of them processing probably like 7 to 10 at a time. So it's just kind of like changing at all times. But
yeah. The great thing about our business model, and Shelly makes a good point, is like, we're all focused on off-market acquisitions. So we're acquiring the properties and we have multiple exit strategies now, right? We started out as wholesalers, but we can wholesale, we can wholetail, we can do novations, we can do creative financing, we can do burrs, right? We can do flips, we can do all those things. So like as Shelly mentioned, when the interest rates were really high and everything was sitting on the market, we stopped flipping. It didn't make sense to flip at that time, right? When the interest rates went low, we were flipping like crazy because we wanted to get in on everything. So we have the ability to work with that, which gives us a little bit more resilience with the market. Not to say that the last 5 years haven't been up, down, and all over the place and having all kinds of struggles. And, even in the good times, have been a struggle, and the bad times have been more of a struggle. But I don't think being a one-trick pony is great for anybody. I think wholesaling is great, but it's never going to bring long-term wealth and great revenue. Whereas if you can have different exit strategies, that allows more wealth and revenue. But if you focus on one thing like flipping and the market completely changes, it could put you out of business as well. So I feel like we have some resilience in that aspect.
And I feel like we're always trying different things too. Like we're always trying, add legs to the table to make the business sturdier. So we're like always trying different things. We've tried expanding into other markets. We were in, Las Vegas, Kansas,
New York.
Western New York lasted a long time. That one we did really well in. And
Florida.
we're in Rhode Island right now. We've done Florida. So we're always trying those things too. And some of them worked out great, and others we kind of pulled back because they were like pulling our attention that way, but not bringing in any revenue or enough revenue to make it worth it. So, but we are always trying, different exit strategies, like Jeremy said, but also like different ways to expand the business too.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah.
What kind of boundaries have you put in place to protect your marriage and your family from being consumed by the business?
That's a good question. I like that.
Do you?
Yeah, because I think it's hard. Like, it's a real question. It's hard when you have a family with 5 kids. So during COVID, we had 5 kids homeschooling on their computers and us working on Zoom
With no notice.
with no notice. And we're trying to I couldn't even, at the time the kids were younger, I couldn't even get a Home Depot order finished. It took me like 8 hours to just put in the order because of all the interruptions. So it's definitely, a challenge. And as our kids have gotten older, we have more time. But I always say that when you are an entrepreneur, you have your own business, it's like, yes, we have time freedom and we have the ability to create our own schedule, but we're always on, no matter what. I mean, Jeremy could be on Slack 24/7 if he wanted to. So you're right. You do have to protect your marriage and your family for sure and have some boundaries. So we typically try to schedule Wednesdays and Thursdays, I know, are like his marathon Zoom days. Fridays, we're typically going to flips together. And then Monday, Tuesdays are our days that are a little bit more for us. A lot of the time we will go check on flips, but that we enjoy. And it's like a fun thing for us to go out and go around. And then one of those days, Monday or Tuesdays, we call it our date day. So we have a date day pretty much every week where we just spend time together. We'll go get manicures and pedicures together or just go to lunch or whatever. But we definitely schedule that a lot and try to make sure that we don't miss out on that. And also our mornings are huge. Our mornings are always together. They always have been. Even when the kids were young, it was like that was the time where we would read together. We always go to the gym together. We walk together in the morning. So if we get up early enough before the kids when they were younger, we'd have 3 hours together every single day before we started out. So what else?
No, those are great. I'd say the morning routine is a good point. Is our non-negotiables. Try to schedule the date day every week has been a non-negotiable. Putting our children's needs and activities before anything else has been a non-negotiable. I'm very addicted to business. Shelly helps reel me in sometimes from that because I do love it and I can get consumed by it. But only because it's fun. But yeah, Shelly makes a great point. I think those are the things that really worked out well. I would say over time too, what we were doing in the business has constantly evolved and changed. Some of it was been a little bit easier than others, but what we were doing years ago is not necessarily what we're doing now, and it's ebbed and flowed. And obviously we hired team members and delegated along the way and stuff like that. Sometimes it's easy to let things go. Sometimes it's not. But it's been an evolution. I'm sure what we're doing today will evolve in a couple more years, especially now that our youngest is the last one here and he's designed to get ready to make us empty nesters, and our business continues to evolve, our aspirations continue to evolve, our willingness to want to do this business but travel as we do it will evolve. But the best thing about this is we've been doing it side by side since day one. We are truly best friends and soulmates and business partners, training partners. We love doing the business together. We love being married to each other. We love training with each other. It's I know some people are like, I don't know how you could work with your significant other. For us, specifically for me, I don't know how I could do this without her. I wouldn't want to do this without her. Everything I do in my life is because of her and for her and with her. And if I couldn't have any of that, I wouldn't be interested.
Oh, that.
Yeah, a lot of the time we, call running, moving meditation, or walking is moving meditation. It is when I'm alone, but when we're together, we have come up with some of our best business ideas and visionary stuff just out for a run in the morning. So yeah.
It's been great.
Just a little addition.
I love that. And I want to kind of double down on that a little bit too, because that is 100% us too. right? We're better together. We lift each other up when we are on dates or whatnot. A lot of times that's when those creative juices are flowing best, right? And so we come up with new ideas, new strategies to implement into our business and our lives. And keeping family first has always been the most important thing. But you said that your business has changed. It's evolved a lot over the years. And we've heard that today in this episode. But let's go forward now. What does your business look like when you are empty nesters in 5 years? What are you doing? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm asked this question a lot on other type of podcasts, and what I would say is I've learned so much about myself and the business in the last 5 years, and the compound effect of that has been incredible. I can only imagine what the 10 years of knowledge we have now, plus another 5 years, what we're going to be able to achieve in 15 years. I can't give you a black and white answer because I really don't know. And obviously life is going to impact some of those decisions, whether we want it to or not. But in the perfect picture, we're going to continue to run this business together from our Cape house, because we bought a second house on Cape Cod, which is down by the water. We love salt life. We're big. That's like our dream. Living by the ocean is a big thing for us. We're probably going to be what they call us snowbirds, right?
Yeah.
A place down south. We want to travel a lot to Europe and things of that nature. We'll do a lot of that stuff in the Caribbean while we're running our business remotely, or businesses remotely. We'll continue to buy rental properties. We love what we do. We don't want to retire. I think we'd be bored retiring. This gives us a purpose, So again, we love training. We love traveling. We love dating. We love building this business together. And we're going to just continue to get better at doing more of that. I don't know if we're necessarily always going to scale. We've been there, done that. Sometimes less is more. As we get older, our time is more valuable than trying to chase more dollars.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was going to say before. It's like in the beginning of the business, or a few years ago when the kids were younger, Jeremy often says it's either going to cost more money or it's going to cost more time, and we have to choose which one. So at the time for our flips, we had a project manager who managed all of our flips. And we paid extra for that because it was needed. Recently, as the kids were all kind of going off to college, we have one left in the house and he's driving now. So we have a little more time, and we realized we really enjoyed going around to the flips. We can handle 5 flips together and talk to the contractors. So we kind of reverted back to that. But those things will always be changing. So we do have the goal of being snowbirds and being able to travel a lot. So our business, if we're flipping, we'll probably have a project manager again. And we often talk about being able to do private lending ourselves in the future, because that's something that you can do from wherever you are. One of our kind of mentors, who is one of our private lenders, that's what he does now. And so I think it's, going to feel like we're retired because we'll be bike riding to the bank to process a wire. So it's just the structure's going to change, but I think we will always be working because it's really fun. But it will just change in what every day looks like, right?
Yeah. The great thing about this business is you can always change it around whatever your current lifestyle needs to be or you want it to be. And, so it's always evolving as we evolve. So where we will be in 5 years, I don't know, but it'll probably be somewhere near the salt water while we're getting a nice tan.
We will be
Like
a lot
you guys.
warmer than we are
Yeah.
today. Yes,
I love it.
What's something that you're most proud of thus far in your journey?
Want me to take that one?
Sure.
Jeremy already touched on it a little bit, but I'm just most proud of now that the kids are, we are becoming empty nesters. We're almost there. So I'm a little bit emotional about, raising the kids through all the craziness. I'm really proud that at a time that it mattered the most, the age that they're going to remember, that we were able to always be there. We were running this business, but we were always home. And I remember one day, one of the kids texted me and was like, "Hey mom, like I forgot my lunch. Can you bring lunch to school?" And I said, "Well, no, I can't. I'm doing something at work right now," because I was at like a closing. And they were like, "You're not home? Why aren't you home?" They couldn't understand why we weren't home because we're always home. I mean, we don't have an office. We worked for years just on Zoom from our kitchen table or this office or whatever. So they just couldn't understand that mom and dad or that we wouldn't be at their call like no matter
back and
what.
call, no matter
Sorry.
what. Yeah.
It wouldn't occur to them that we wouldn't be at an after school football game because we were always there. It wouldn't occur to them that we wouldn't be home if they were sick that day, even if they were faking it just so they could stay home. So I'm just really proud that for the years that it mattered the most that we were able to be home because both Jeremy and I, you know, through our divorce years that are very difficult, we were working so hard and I was in an office and I felt like when I went to the office, I had to drop 3 kids off at daycare. I felt like I was rushing in behind the people who were able to get there early. And if I was leaving at 5:30 to get to daycare before it closed, I was the one that was leaving early while stuff was still happening at the office. And so I felt like I was always, you know, missing something somewhere. Now it's like I feel like I can be a full part of the business, but always be there for the kids. And so I'm proud that we were able to build that. I
Yeah.
don't know what else.
Yeah. I mean, that's really well said. I will say, you know, what we've achieved in 10 years is, I'm really proud of what we've achieved. You know, we're one of the largest, if not most successful, well-known house buying companies here in our area. You know, many small businesses don't even make it 5 years, never mind 10. And we've been able to achieve both, and we've done it with great success and being present, like she said. And that's something I'm really, really proud of when we've been able to do it together. But I'm going to share one thing. Shelly was talking about when she was working that full-time job. When she quit her job and had the ability to get the kids off the school bus again, right? I remember her telling me, like, I was so thankful I could get the kids back on the school bus. And when they got off the school bus, early on in our business, that first year, getting them off the school bus and being home at 3:00, 2:30 when they got off the bus, to have that moment again and how emotional it made her feel and how proud I was feeling to give her that again. It's those moments over and over again that I'm the most proud of.
I love that.
Yeah. So just to emphasize, money doesn't buy you true wealth.
Exactly.
I feel like time is more valuable than money.
1,000%. I always tell him, like, you know, Jeremy's always looking for more and to build more and to keep growing. But I always tell him, like, okay, that's fine. Let's do it. But I feel like we already made it because we have full control over our time. It's huge. It's everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a blessing. If someone
Yeah.
focused on one skill for the next 12 months, what would you tell them to go all in on?
Well, I guess if it's with regards to acquiring off-market properties with real estate, you know, there's a million ways to market to generate leads. But I think your ability to learn how to take those leads and convert them to contracts that actually close, regardless of your exit strategy, whether it's wholesale, flipping, buying rentals, there is a skill set that takes years of learning, practicing, and mastering. Because you're good at talking to people or you've done sales before, doesn't mean you're necessarily going to take that person of all those stories we told you about and be able to take that lead and convert it to a deal that actually closes. That is a skill set in itself. And the better you get at that, the better conversions you will have in this business, which means you can spend X amount on marketing and generate X more on the revenue just by learning those skill sets. I think if there's anything you want to get good at in this business, it's mastering the art of acquisition, sales skills, and communication skills.
Thank
And
you.
I'll just
Nicely
agree with
done.
Jeremy on that because I remember a little bit into the business, we had hired an acquisition person, but they were convinced that they just like weren't getting enough good leads. So Jeremy was throwing all this money at more leads, more leads, more leads. And then we met with a mentor and he said, stop, like you don't need more leads. You have plenty. You have to work on your conversion. And do you remember that? And so when we worked on that and learned to get better at actually converting those leads,
It's a game changer.
it was a game changer.
Nice. Guys, I'm going to start wrapping this up here. And as we do so, I want to end this conversation the same way we do all of our conversations, by less about what you've built and more about who you've become in the process. So I got 4 more questions for you. The first one is, who or what has inspired you most along your journey?
What do you think?
My wife.
Oh,
Yeah, she inspires me. Again, she brings the best out of me. She wakes up with a purpose, the heart, the love, the compassion. She is nonstop. I call her the Michelinator. She's like pot Michelle, pot Terminator. Like the Terminator just never dies, never slows down, never stops. That's my wife, which doesn't allow me to get lazy or complacent, which I don't want to be, which she brings out the best of me. So she's definitely my biggest inspiration and motivator.
Nice.
sweet.
What about you, Shelly?
Well, I want to say Jeremy, but I don't know if I can say that back, because he definitely inspires me daily, like I said. And there's been a lot of people along the way that have inspired me in wholesaling and real estate, but they're all the people that have started from not a lot and figured out the way to make it work and haven't given up. Anyone with any kind of resilience who's, been through the difficult parts and then continued on. I get really inspired when I hear about people who have built a business, great business. I can think of a couple people, only to lose it all, but then they build it again. I'm sure you've heard a lot of those stories. Like, those are the type of people that inspire me the most. And I think you asked a few minutes ago about how we've changed or something. Did you ask that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say that because of those people and because of doing this business for myself personally, I'm a less scared human being. I'm not as afraid anymore of what the future could bring.
Or
Are we going
failure.
to be okay? Afraid of failure, all of those things, because I see all these people that I look up to, yeah, they did it, they lost it, and they rebuilt it again. And I feel like we'll always be able to do that.
Well said.
So I'm not
That's
scared
good.
anymore.
Yeah, that's good. All right. Second question. How do you find peace?
I would say peace is mostly with both of us is probably just through exercise. We're big fitness enthusiasts, whether, and obviously that changes as, time and life and things, but we've always been actively either running, training, working out,
Hot yoga, trails,
walking.
being in the woods.
Yeah, all that
Nature.
stuff.
Yeah.
Fitness is our biggest outlet. We're not big into drinking or anything like that. So we love getting up early and seeing sunrises,
Yes.
and before the world wakes up, spending that time together, either working out or talking business or life or all of the above. That's the peace in our life.
And the kids. I would say anytime the business is stressful, but then one of the kids walk in and we're just listening to what's going on with them, or one of them calls us now from whatever state they're in, that brings a lot of peace too.
But not
It'll bring it right down.
not the moody teenagers. They don't bring peace.
That was not peaceful. No.
No such thing. If you could
Yes.
sit with your younger selves for just a moment, what's one piece of advice you would give them?
I would, for myself, what is it called? Limiting beliefs, right? So how I was raised, and just kind of where I came from, I kind of thought that there was a certain lifestyle that I would fit into, and that was it. That was the ceiling. This is what you're going to do in life. So every time something really good or prosperous has happened to us, I'm always kind of nervous at first, wait, I don't deserve this. We can't dream this big. So I've started dreaming bigger, and I still often have times where it's well, I shouldn't be thinking that, because that's not where I'm supposed to end up. So
That's a great one. That's a good one. I think we all could feel that one. I would have to agree with her. I mean, that's spot on. I think we all struggle with limited beliefs. And, I've always struggled with feeling worthy of success because of my upbringing. We both come from very modest, if not less than modest backgrounds and lifestyles. So that's been an adjustment. But, the one piece of advice I give myself as a younger person was, just start working on personal development much sooner in life, and even just start this business sooner. I was too busy being reckless and not doing things that I should have done. And it was once I really started learning about personal development, my life really started to spiral in the right direction. I just wish I started it sooner.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
one.
All right, guys, I'll get you out of here on this. What's something that you've learned recently that made you stop, breathe, and see life a little differently?
Hmm. Well, I think for me, it's just, aging, right? And feeling like, I'm going to be 50 this year, right? What's on the other side of that? Oh my God, 60, right? Time is not, it feels more limited than it ever has, right? It goes
Mm.
by so fast. I mean, it just feels like yesterday I was in my 20s. How did I end up being 50 years old? So that vulnerability that things could change very quickly and it could all be gone tomorrow. And as we get older, seeing loved ones pass us by, unfortunately, right? And just realizing that life is really precious and it's not guaranteed for anyone. And every day, every moment matters and not to waste them. That has become more impactful to me as I've gotten older. I'm trying to really make the most of everything that's meaningful in my life, like my wife and that time with her, as much as possible. Business is great. I love building a business, but it's the things that the business brings us with our loved ones, family, and friends that you really got to seize that day. I don't want to be hung over and just waste a day, right? I want to build a memory with my loved ones, like my wife. That's way more important to me than anything else at this point.
I would just say that's perfectly stated. That's all I was going to say. We're at a stage in our life where we are seeing like loved ones pass and a lot of different health scares. And so that will bring you right to the here and now and make you realize that every day just really matters. So you said it perfectly.
Great minds think alike.
I love it. And when they're aligned. Before we wrap, where can our audience connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, we're all over social media. Feel free to reach out to us, Jeremy and Shelly Beland, Beland, Jeremy and Shelly Beland. I'm all over social media. Shelly's a little bit more reserved than I am on that aspect, but you'll see us anywhere. And if you want to talk real estate, I'd love to talk to you. I talk to people about real estate all the time. So yeah, that's where you'll find us.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Jeremy, Shelly, thank you guys so much. You guys are fantastic. You guys have
you.
an amazing day.
Nothing up.
The biggest takeaway for me wasn't the 500 deals. It was that they went smaller before they got bigger.
Yeah, I love that they chose time, they chose presence, they chose uncomfortable.
And that's the part that nobody really posts about.
Right. So I guess the big question is, if your goal is freedom, what are you willing to sacrifice in order to get it?
And that's a super good one to marinate on. Who do we have coming on next week?
So next week, we have Levi and Stephanie Ware, who run a nonprofit called the Melodic Caring Project. And these two are amazing. They literally bring concerts to kids in hospital rooms. How cool is that?
They were so great. And you may need tissues for that one because I know I did.
Definitely. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for being part of the family today. If you want a closer look at our journey through real life, business, and all the wild adventures, follow us on Instagram at Our Family Invest. And for free resources to help you on your own path, head to ourfamilyinvest.com.
If you like this episode, send it to a friend. And if you're feeling extra generous, drop us a quick review. It really helps us grow this community. Thank you so much for being part of our family today. We really, truly appreciate you. This episode is going to ruin it for you.
Start again and talk to them. Because that part...
I'm talking to you. But yes, okay. Then this episode is going to ruin it. That was almost there. I was almost there.
No, I know.
Sold their house. They moved into an apartment. They bet everything on themselves.
And that is the part that most people skip.
Yeah, that was kind of weird and awkward there.
Yeah,
Let's try that again.
Yeah, there's hoarder houses, dumpster diving, therapy sessions at 10:30 p.m. at night.
Oh, that's me. Sorry.
Miguel.
I did that. I was reading the next line before I...
Do it again.
Yeah.
Go.
I need something to drink.
Good?
Good.
Woosah.
Okay, so... Yeah, now I gotta look at the camera instead of the thing. I forgot that part.
And they literally do that part.
Yeah, but I didn't read it, see?
You must have moved into an apartment.
Fine. Fine, we'll do it again. And they literally, they sold their house. They moved into an apartment. They spent.
They spent. Bye.
Are you kidding me?